Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another special edition of the Media Boat Podcast. This is our yearly end of the year wrap up. This year's for 2024. My name is Mike. His name is Matt.
My name is Matt. His name is Mike. And yes, thank you for joining us for another episode of the year end wrap up for 2024. In case you missed the first one, or if you're new to the wrap ups we do here, it is our way of recapping the year with either both the stories that made the year and also our favorite things in that category of the year. We already have recorded our episode for music. Today we're recording our episode for video games. So we will do this in two parts. If you're new here, how we do it is we go through the news stories of the year, picking one news story that we deem the most important thing to happen in that category. And then we go into our top fives, our individual top fives, and then eventually crown a number one video game in this case for the Media Boat podcast for 2024. So in the past, we have done a recap of the entire calendar year. This year, as you put it so succinctly last time, we've truncated it to just include two stories that we've narrowed down to choose one for you for time because you ain't got time for that anymore. We're old. So yeah, let's start with stories. You have narrowed it down already, I'm presuming, to two video game stories.
Yes. What First up we're going to talk about is Nintendo,
Yeah.
because while we always talk about like the big two, Sony and Microsoft with Xbox, uh, Nintendo had quite a big year for themselves this year. Not just with releasing multiple new games. We had a new Mario and Luigi game. We had a Princess Zelda game on its own, but we also had a lot of new stuff like Pokemon coming out too, even though it wasn't like specifically Nintendo. But mainly the story here is the anticipation and rumors of Switch 2,
Hmm.
whatever that may be. There was a lot of rumors floating around this year in preparation for it. We were expecting a new console to probably be announced. Didn't quite happen, but that didn't keep Nintendo completely out of our news just yet because they were involved in a lot of different lawsuits over the course of the year, especially with shutting down of the Dolphin emulator, and as well as the Nintendo's really Pokemon's lawsuit with Pal World. So they were all scattered out little bits and pieces all throughout the year.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's an argument to be had there. I think that it's weird in a way that we're talking about like half of this story is something that hasn't happened yet. That we're
Yes.
waiting for the ball to drop. I think that maybe the Switch 2 is more the 2025 story of the year, because we will have a lot more information in just a handful of months here. I have my money on March. But yeah, I think that yeah, that there. But and as for the litigation, I mean, yeah, they've been doing that for a while. But you're right, it kind of did go in full throttle this year. It seems like they have an all-out attack on piracy going on, where they're taking down the biggest names and trying to prove that they really do are like care passionately about the copyright. Yeah, I mean, it's no new news really in either way. This is nothing new. Nintendo has been doing both of these things for a while, hinting at a new console and tracking down pirates. So yeah, maybe I'll just put a big firm maybe. I guess it depends on what your second story is.
Well, the second story is the story of free to play games and
Hmm.
how they've pretty much dominated this year in terms of releases. We've had multiple new releases coming out where the games are free to play. Yes, they can be considered gotcha games, but at the same time, gotta make money. I mean, we had a lot of free to play games coming out, including Foam Stars, Hawked, Wuthering Waves, Star Wars Hunters, Zenless Zone Zero, um, even technically Pokemon Trading Card Pocket Game is a free to play game. Uh,
Yes.
Most recently example is both Marvel Rivals and Infinity Nikki, both
Mhm.
free to play games. And just the amount of free to play games that came out this year specifically and dominated kind of the news stories when they came out and got people playing them is the story itself. And then on the flip side of that, you have a game that probably should have been free to play, but ultimately became the biggest flop of the year and
Mhm.
really is kind of the major story. But I just don't want it to be a 2 week story because that's all it was.
Yeah.
I mean, even though it's the biggest story, it made the biggest splash. Well, in terms of story, but not in terms of money. So I'm
Sure.
talking about Concord and
Yeah.
the $400 million failure that game was.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think that kind of the way I would phrase this is like the monetization of games in 2024. It's in shambles. Nobody knows how to do it. I mean, recently in recent weeks, we've had a lot of stories about Ubisoft. Ubisoft is a perfect example of this because they have banked on what appears to be the wrong horses all year. Like they put out like relatively inexpensive critical darlings like Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown that they've had to basically admit were just didn't make enough money and the team is shut down. They also put out Star Wars, like meanwhile, EA put out Star Wars Outlaws, a game that
Mhm.
also super expensive that just didn't find its footing. So where are we with but you're right, this is parallel to stories of these huge free to play launches like Marvel Rivals, where it's like these games are coming out of the gate making a lot of money. Pokemon Trading Card Pocket apparently is now the most successful launch of 2024 money wise, and it is also free to play. So developers right now, especially in the AAA area, have no idea how to put out their games anymore. And yeah, you're right. Concord is the poster child for this. It should have probably been a free to play game propped up by microtransactions. Sony was probably gun shy because of the amount of money they spent on it to make it. But in retrospect, you can't charge that much for a game that does that little. Like, I'm sorry, it might have all the fancy cutscenes in the world, but ultimately, if it's a game that basically Marvel Rivals also is, they're going to go to the free one. And the fact that Fortnite has blown up, Genshin Impact has blown up, everybody is trying to make their version of those two games now. We're finally to that point where like enough time has passed between the huge success of Fortnite and notably the success of Genshin Impact that it's been long enough in the development pipeline that all the clones are now out. And we're seeing that. In the Game Awards alone, I Blue Sky posted about this because I thought it was so funny. In the Game Awards alone, there were not one, but two different games that at some point I thought were Genshin Impact that weren't Genshin Impact.
Right.
That's where we're at. It's like this is the market now. The market has changed again. I was listening to a podcast where they were talking about like that Bethesda might be putting out a remake of Elder Scrolls Oblivion. And Oblivion is notable because it is the beginning, it is the advent of the microtransaction in modern video games, the horse armor.
The horse, sorry.
And yeah, the classic horse armor conversation from back in 2007, 2008. Like the world we live in now is created by that moment. Like all of that is a dominoes, the domino meme, the guy with the giant domino meme, where
Mhm.
you have horse armor and you end up here with Concord, with Genshin Impact, with Pokemon trading cards to a certain extent. All of that is because of that. Like we have gotten here and it's amazing how worlds away it feels. Like it has created a twister, like a monsoon, in which the game industry is folding in on itself, doesn't know how to run itself anymore because nobody knows whether a free to play gamble will work out or not, or whether a $70 price point gamble will work out or not. Nobody knows because there have been so many games that have changed the system. The game is different now and AAA doesn't know how to adjust. So yeah,
Right. You
I
even
think that
have
that's right.
Square Enix coming out and saying that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, a
Right.
AAA game that was adored by critics, adored by fans, Square Enix coming out and saying it didn't make enough money. So
Yeah.
that for the next entry, they want out on all platforms at the same time to make all that money.
So yeah, the question is where's the line, right? Like they need
Mhm.
to figure out where the line is, like how much money can you make? How much money are you going to make before the gamers rebel, right? Like because you're going to get to a point where maybe you do put out a $40 game that's cheaper, but also propped up by microtransactions. When does the gaming populace then turn on it and say, I already paid $40 for this. This is too much. This is exorbitant. And then that fails too. There's no
Mhm.
middle ground. And it's just such a gamble that nobody knows anymore. So, yeah, I think that that is a perfect story for this year. Like, I think we are teetering on the edge of a AAA like implosion, and it feels realer than it ever felt.
So yeah, monetization of games
Yeah.
from free to play to Concord to
Yeah.
triple A's.
Yeah.
Just how do you make money?
Who
And
knows?
that is a story that we've been covering this entire year.
It's true.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was easy.
Yeah.
Now let's get to the hard part.
Well,
So,
is it hard when we've already decided?
oh no, it's not hard. So we've already so last time you went first, which means
Yeah,
I get to go first.
indeed.
And we're going to start with my number five, which is always my mobile game of the year.
Right.
And while I had technically had to say goodbye to two different mobile games this year, thanks EA for shutting off the servers, there was one game that I play daily. I get the daily stuff. We kind of talked about it. It's Pokemon trading card game Pocket. It's my mobile game of the year. I want new polls. The fact that this one is higher than some other stuff that I do play on mobile game is because they add new content basically bi-weekly now.
Yeah.
Whether it's a new tournament, whether it's a new focus, whether it's unlocking new battles, new cards, a new kind of gimmick. The fact that they have all this roadmap planned out and more planned out into January already, that they see all the potential that this game has, and they want to retain all that potential. And it's retaining me, and it's getting me a little bit of that addiction to maybe I do want to go out and buy some physical Pokemon cards. And I think that's
Nope,
one
don't
thing
do
that
it.
Christmas is coming around. You may find some in your stocking. Just a little pack, not the booster, just a little booster pack, not like the full like
Right.
deck starter packs. No, no, I'm not there yet. I'm not dropping 120 for a dual what are we on? Crystal Violets,
Yeah,
Scarlet
Violet and
Violets, or
Scarlet.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but maybe $5 for a 5 card booster pack. I'm not actually spending money on Pokemon trading card game pocket. Um, but I can see why people spend money. I can
Yeah.
see why people want to attain everything, want to collect everything.
Yeah.
Because it's very, very addicting.
Yeah.
We'll get to an addicting game in a little bit here, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's super fun. It's super relaxful, super casual, and the gaming and battle mechanic super simplified too. And I
Yeah.
think that's what differentiates this from the traditional trading card game.
Yeah, this is an honorable mention for me. It barely isn't on my top five. But what I will say is that, yeah, they nailed it. They made the thing that they needed to make. It is easy to collect. It is easy to show off your cards. It is easy to battle, and it is easy to like interact with friends about battling and wonder picks and stuff like that. Christy and I have made this kind of a routine now where we battle each other. We were doing it daily for a while. We kind of every other day now. But yeah, it's fun to kind of see like, oh, what did you pull? And like have that conversation every day. It's a fun community feel for the game like this. And it's the Pokemon card game that they've always had the ability to make, and they finally made it. Like
Yeah.
this is the thing that needed to exist.
And the fact that it came out so polished and not like super buggy too,
Right.
and free to play. You
Yeah.
don't have to spend money. You can buy the premium pass,
Yeah.
but you don't have to. There's enough in it that you don't have to drop any real dollars for it.
Yeah. It's still that great feeling where you get to wake up in the morning and be like, I can open a booster pack. And it's just a fun little piece, little fun thing to do in the mornings. It's great.
Yep. All right. Coming in at number four, I'm pulling a mic. It's a twofer.
No.
Uh, I'm bundling these together, but only because I bought these together. I bought the bundle, and it satisfied me all through summer and all through fall. And for that reason, because I played so much damn of these games, it's here at number four slot. Sorry, it's an EA game, but it's EA Sports College Football 25, the return of college football, and then the Madden 25 associated game. the first game that is solely on the new generation consoles. Well,
Mhm.
not new, but current generation consoles. Uh, yes, this kind of, I don't say broke my bank, but $100 is a steep price tag for these two games.
Mhm.
But if you're going to be like me and you're going to spend a lot of time playing college football with all the college teams and especially doing the uh the superstar mode, trying to get that Heisman, trying to win those national championships, you spend a lot of time here. And they did a really, really great job bringing this back. So much so that I I went through it like I think four different times, just in the superstar mode, trying to try different teams, try different strategies. Uh, there's just so much packed into just this the college side of it alone that all that gets easily transported into the Madden side, where there's also a lot more to unpack. Not just your standard franchise game, not just standard superstar game, but Madden Ultimate Team. Huge, wide variety, selection. There's also a new 3-on-3 mode, kind of like a gridiron uh, playhouse. That's also super fun, super quick, and you can create your own team. They packed so much into these games that maybe it's just me not playing for 5 years, but a lot of the stuff that you would want in a Madden game, in a college football game, are here in these two games. And
Yeah.
they feel like fan-driven games because the fans have wanted college football for over 10 years. The last game was 2014
Right.
when it went dormant. And
Yeah.
how all the big hype surrounding it coming back, the players' names there, the NIL licensing deals, they nailed it.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of those two things, right? I think it's also the time that you spend off, but also the time that they spend off. Because you mentioned like it feels like fans made it. And I think in a lot of cases it is. I think there was a passionate group at EA that had been making the Madden games that had wanted to go back to college football. They wanted to make a college football game. They knew the fans were screaming for it, and they knew there was an opportunity to do some new things. And the vibe that I got from everybody who played that college game when it came out was yeah, they're doing something slightly different here. This is a team that understands that college football by nature is a different kind of game than the Madden game that they had been making.
Mhm.
And so they leaned into it. Like they included modes and they included things, elements of the gameplay that make most sense in a college game and leaned into the creation of a college game. And they put a passion in it that I think that has been missing largely from Madden for a very long time. And I think that's palpable. I think people can feel it. And I think that's why people were so pleasantly surprised by how good that package was.
Yeah, there's a lot of good spectacles, like you mentioned, like per school, because that's what makes college football so great, is that each school has their own tradition, their own special, their own unique
Right.
thing that they do before kickoffs, at halftimes, in the middle breaks, after you score a touchdown. And to bring all that passion into the college sports game
Yeah.
just resonated throughout every single time you played. And to bring that kind of same passion into Madden 2025, like it just makes it such a
Mhm.
nice pairing of the two.
Yeah.
But I got three better
Cool.
games that I played a lot of. Coming in at three, we talked about free to play games. I did not expect this to be on my list. It's here. It's free to play. You goddamn suck me in with it. Infinity Nikki.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes. So just to give an example of how addicting this game is, because
Mhm.
like if you had asked me at the beginning of the year, probably Marvel Rivals free to play game would have probably most likely taken the spot. You
Yeah.
think? But last night I'm sitting there thinking, okay, I got about an hour to play. What do I want to do? I didn't even think about it twice. I jumped into Infinity Nikki. It's addicting. It's easy. It's like we talked about a good half hour about this game.
Yeah.
If you want to go back and listen to our thoughts on it, but it's cute. It's easy. It's low barrier of entry, but there's so much story in this thing.
Yeah.
I don't know where you're at specifically with this story.
Yeah.
Um, I'm I'm pretty far into the game, just doing the
Where
main quest now.
where are you at actually? I'm curious because I'm probably ahead of you because I played more, but
I don't know. I'm past the Stone Mountain place.
okay, yeah. I'm ahead of you, but that's still you're pretty far. You're about halfway through the story.
Okay, yeah, I got the float ability, so I floated across to the island.
Right, yeah, you're with the PCs. You're doing all the PC stuff. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. You're further than that, I assume
I
then.
am a couple of like I'm now two places past that, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I just went through the warehouse of that section and completed that last night.
Yeah.
So it's fun. There's a lot to
Mhm.
collect. There's a lot to do. And
Yeah.
then it's also a style game. You can go around and collect stuff. Like we said, free to play. There's so much packed into this free to play game that you don't really have to spend money. In fact, it kind of discourages you from spending any money.
It low like it kind of puts it on the down low, which is fascinating for a game like this. It kind of just nudges you. It's like, you could resonate right now. You don't have to, but you could. And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, thanks, game.
And I think one thing is that I've every time I've come across something new that it wants me to do, I've never had to like stop and go farm something.
Yeah.
There's
So
always a plethora of everything.
you will get there.
We'll see.
I am now for my main story quest right now where I'm at is basically like, okay, it's time to make the special dress that you've been waiting to make this entire plot. Oh, and here's all these things you have to do before you can craft these pieces. And I'm like,
Okay.
no. So yeah, so you will eventually hit that wall. I
I'll hit the
finally
wall
hit that
eventually.
wall.
Okay. Well, I haven't hit that wall just yet because I keep doing all the other like little mini side quests everywhere because there's so much into this game.
So much.
So much.
I am so
Uh
curious to see I want to see an outfit that you made. I think it's just
oh,
fast. I can't even like compute in my mind like what would an outfit that Mike put together even look like?
oh, it looked like chaos because I'm just maxing out stats the whole time. Doesn't have to
Not but
match.
but the ones you run around with don't have to be max stats though. Like I'm curious what you are wearing when you're running around the
Oh,
world.
when I'm running around,
Yeah.
I spent my special pulls to get the Nikki with the camera.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I have that one.
Yeah, that's the one I'm running around. I spent
Of course.
all my opening pulls just to
Yeah.
purposely get that one.
Of course you would do practical. Like you'd be like,
Yes.
I think the camera is cool. I want to wear the camera outfit.
Well, also her hair is red and not bright pink. It was super distracting
True.
with the bright pink. I like the toned
That's
down red
true.
hat. All right. But
Fair enough.
anyways, I
I
have two
never thought we'd have
games.
this conversation.
I know. But here we are. Two games though. Better than that,
Two more, yeah.
that more or less I completed. Did platinum one of them, which is why it's at number two, then my number one. But only because to platinum it, you gotta grind so
Yeah.
much. But it's a game I would be happy to grind had I had more time to play it. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Yeah.
One of my most anticipated games coming into this year did not disappoint.
Mhm.
When remake was announced, I was very skeptical about it, but it won me over. So coming into Rebirth, I was already all in on it, pre-order everything, get see how they would like evolve the story from where remake left off.
Mhm.
And the open world exploration helps with the story. You
Yeah.
feel with these characters. You go on this epic journey with these characters. It doesn't feel like you're doing checklists, which is what it could have felt like. This feels like a open world lived in game with smoother mechanics, smoother transitions, the in-depth storytelling just between your own party makes you feel for when you get to that moment at the end of the game, which everyone knows is coming and how they're going to handle it and where they're going to leave it off at. But everything leading up to that makes that feel that much more impactful. They
Yeah.
throw in a couple of new stuff, but more or less stick to the main story of what people are familiar with, while adding just enough wrinkles to make it its own.
Mhm.
It's a very, very fun game. AAA, like statted up the wazoo. And even a lot of the side quest mini games are fun to play with because this game is packed with mini games and side quests. Like that's one thing that like the original Final Fantasy 7 was known for in this section was mini game, mini game, mini game, mini game.
Yeah.
And all these mini games are fun. It doesn't feel like, oh, I have to do this mini game. No, it's cool. I can do this mini game again. Or I can come
Yeah.
around and do this. And Queen's Blood, by far, best part about the like one of the best parts about this game.
Yeah, I do think
I love it.
I feel like the critical like this game seems to be on like the top of a pyramid in a lot of ways critically. It seems
Mhm.
like it hinges on the mini games. It seems like the people who loved the mini games are like, this is my favorite game of the year. Well, almost. And then
Yes.
the people who didn't like the mini games be like, no, they ruined this thing. I was so excited for it after remake. Why did they have to pack this thing full of a bunch of stuff that I don't care about? And so it's very fascinating to see who falls on either side of that. So, but yeah,
Yeah,
happy
but
to see that you liked it.
well, you don't have to do all the mini
Right.
games. That's a good thing about it. You can just mainline the story. But if you're gonna be a completionist and you want all the good equipment, you got to do the mini games. And I
Yeah.
didn't mind doing all the mini games. They were fun. They were enjoyable. Yeah, trying to get the high score every single time.
Yeah.
It's going back through hard mode and getting specific builds that I really didn't like. I couldn't just have maxed out stats and still hit a brick wall at the end.
Right. Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
because playing on hard, the difficulty spikes. Normal, fine. Like max out stats, you're doing fine. It's when you go back to try to get that to run it on hard mode to do all the platinum trophy stuff. That's when I hit that wall. It's like, okay, I I love the game. I just don't want to go through hard mode and be like stopped because of my progress, like outside of my progress.
Yeah.
So that brings me to my number one game. Uh, kind of called it when we first reviewed this game, first talked about it. It's a game I
Oh yeah.
easily platinumed
Oh yeah.
in a couple of hours. By the way, both Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and this game, I went out and bought the disc for because I want these games. I want to own these games. I don't want like digital copies. I want to like physically own them, show on my shelf because they are that good. And when you go and buy a physical game,
Yeah.
as even though we here at the podcast advocate for physical games, you know it's going to be that good because you want it forever. You don't want it ever taken away. And that's what I did here with Astrobot. It's my number one game. It was the game of the year at the Game Awards. There's a reason it won that game. It won all trophies everywhere.
Yeah.
It's good. It's not just nostalgia bait. It's a good platformer. It's smooth mechanics. It
Mm.
runs that PS5 the way the PS5 was meant to be run. Like, even though Astrobot has been like the tech demo for years, they use all that. They use the full computing power into this game.
Yeah.
Throw in all the particle physics, throw in all the reflections, throw in all that ray tracing, throw it all in this game and make it look good, make it
Yeah.
run smooth, make it enjoyable. You have a smile on your face from the start to the end.
Yeah.
And even by the time you get to that final battle, you realize how far of a journey you've come from in that last montage. You're like, I remember that picking up that person. I remember picking up that guy. I remember getting this and getting that. And it's this very full encompassing 30 years of PlayStation buildup that makes it feel just like a full complete game that arrives right when it needs to, right when PlayStation need a 30-year anniversary game to culminate everything that they've achieved. Ashura comes along and says, I got you. So thank you, Team Asoli. Love
Yeah.
this game.
I mean, yeah, I'll talk about it more in a moment, but yeah, I'll just say it's just so fun. It's just so fun. It's like fun with a capital F. It's almost capital F, capital U, capital N. Like it's just like you said, smile on your face the whole time, just pure joy. It just feels like nothing else. But yeah, I'll talk a little bit more myself about it because it's on my list for sure.
Yes. So uh we'll get to a couple of honorable
Yeah,
mentions.
do your honorable mentions. Yeah, before I go
All
with
right.
mine.
So four games that I would have loved to play, but either didn't have the time or didn't have the resources to play for.
Yeah,
Uh Pal World, Life is Strange Double Exposure,
yeah,
Tetris Forever, and Hades 2.
yeah. Early access.
Early access game. Would have liked to play all four of those games, either ran out of time or
Mhm.
just didn't have like the proper setup to play it.
Sure.
Um, Other quick games, free to play games. Actually, they're all free to play games. I mentioned them real quickly. Hawked, Zenless Zone Zero, Marvel Rivals, all free to play, all very fun. Um, but just didn't quite make my top list because I played them. I liked them when they came out,
Yeah.
but not enough to retain my attention to make my list. Even put Marvel Rivals, like I'm bouncing in and out of it, not really consistently, but I like
Yeah.
the gameplay. It's very smooth, very fun, as we mentioned when we talked about it just a couple of weeks ago,
Mhm.
but just not enough to warrant a place on my list.
For sure.
And then lastly, Final Fantasy 16 DLC, The Rising Tide, came out earlier this year. I loved what they did to expand the lore, but it didn't really do anything to make me want to replay the game, especially once Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was out.
Sure. Yeah, makes sense.
Yep.
Okay, I'll start. I'll do the thing you do, and I'll start with my honorable mentions so we can just get those over with. Just want to mention real quick. I'll just rapid fire these. Hades 2 early access. I did play a lot of this, and hell, they still got it. Like, it's still a great game. It plays like Hades, but different enough that it makes its own unique statement. They've already updated it so much since the last time I played it. I bet it'll be a completely new experience when I jump back in again. That's exciting. That's an exciting feeling because that game was already so good, and they're just going to keep tweaking it, tweaking it until it's the best thing you've ever played. And that's a really exciting thing to have just already purchased available to you. And I'm so excited. So yeah, great game. If it wasn't on early access, it'd probably be on this list. Want to shout out Pokemon Trading Card Game Pocket, as you said. It's been a great daily ritual for me. Not quite good enough to get number five for me because I kind of dropped off a little bit since launch. However, yeah, the perfect thing that they had that they made like no notes. They just need to add trading and then we're good.
Yep.
I want to toss out Life is Strange Double Exposure. I haven't played enough of it to warrant a place on the top five, so this is where it kind of has to stay for now. The story is interesting so far, and I do like the mechanics. So I'm interested to see where it goes because I think when Life is Strange games are good, they're really good, and I just don't know. I haven't played enough of it to know whether it's really good or not. A couple of real small indies I played this year. I want to mention Peglin, a Peggle like that's kind of like an RPG. That took up a bunch of my time during the summer this year. It was really fun. And Mini Shoot Adventures in a similar way, a really cool combination of a top-down shooter plus Zelda game that I think deserves a little shout out. A lot of fun, very cheap on Steam. Recommend it. And then a couple of bigger games. I want to shout out my sports game of the year, MLB The Show 24. Um, Similar to your experience with Madden, I played a lot of this year. A lot of this was because of just further refinement of the gameplay of the Road to the Show mode. I think the Road to the Show is the best it's ever been this year. And also the addition of female players was awesome. And it was really cool to have a Road to the Show where you could play as a woman and see what it would be like to like be a woman in the majors and like be that milestone, be that big breakthrough star. And they do it really, really well. And the fact that it's seamless, even with the play calling, is fascinating. Like they just recorded alternate versions of literally everything in the game to say she or her instead of he, and it just works. You don't even think about it. You're just like, oh yeah, yeah, she did that. Like, yeah, of course she did. She's playing baseball. So yeah, it's really cool. Makes me excited for the real world female baseball league that is getting its early start right now. I'm very excited to see where that goes. Meanwhile, last thing I'll mention because it's literally the last thing I played before I made my top five, which was Indiana Jones: The Great Circle. I really like the early bits of this game. I think it's going to be a really cool thing to see through. It is playing an Indiana Jones game, and that's pretty much all you need to say to sell it to somebody. It's great, and the fact that it's available on Game Pass is awesome. So those were my honorable mentions. Let's get into my top five. All right. So I started number five with a game, my mobile game of the year. I did the thing you did, except then I don't usually do this. But in this case, a mobile game was strong enough to make it. At one point, I almost pulled another U. At one point, this five was two games, but I decided against that.
Oh, okay, so
Yeah,
you did one of what I do.
yeah. This was almost this game and Pokemon trading card game, but I excised Pokemon trading card game from this spot. Now it's just Balatro. So now Balatro
Mhm.
is my number five. It wasn't gonna make it for the most of this calendar year. I avoided playing this game for whatever reason until like, and I just heard praise after praise after praise, people going crazy about this game all year long. Then finally hits Apple Arcade. And I'm like, well, I don't have an excuse anymore. So I download it. Then it doesn't work on my old phone. And so I'm like, okay, well, my phone doesn't agree with it. I guess I'm just not meant to play Balatro. But then I get a new phone. And then about a month in, I'm like, all right, fine. I'll download this again. I'll give it the old college try. I'll see what people are talking about. Even then, it was kind of a road to get there. It took a couple weeks to get its teeth in me. But when it did, it did. Folks, I am addicted to Balatro now. I get it. I'm sold. I understand what everybody was talking about. It is the perfect combination of like light poker mechanics with rogue like Hades style, just another round gameplay. You just keep going. You just keep playing. There's so much variety in the possibility space of every round that you end every round being like, I wonder if next time I can do something, maybe I'll get this Joker and maybe I can do this thing. It's that Hades mindset that you get into that role where you're like, oh, well, maybe if I try this and maybe I could really lean in two pair. Maybe if I just focus on cards that give me Arcana points and like I do multiplier based on Arcana. Like you start speaking another language with Balatro that only other people who played Balatro will understand. Be like, oh yeah, I did the Celestial Pacts and I specifically did Uranus every time because that gives you points for two pair. And I just focused on two pair the entire time. Like it means nothing to
Whoosh.
anybody else. But it's created this language, its own language, its own universe because of how deep you can get sucked into the Balatro hole. So yeah, I wholeheartedly recommend it, especially if you have Apple Arcade. It's the best way to play it. But if you don't, you can just buy it on your phone. You can have it forever. Just pay once. It's not a microtransaction game. Ironically, the game that has poker cards is not a gambling game. There's
It's
no gambling at all.
it's like
Like
$10,
it's
right?
like $10, and you will get way more than $10 worth of game out of it. It is so good. It is so good. It's on Steam as well. If you'd rather play with a mouse, I bet it works great with a mouse. Yeah, it's a wonderful game that I wish I had just taken the dive earlier in the year and played because I probably would still be playing it. It's that good. So yeah, that's my number five, but only because of how strong of a year this has been. Because at number four, an old classic has returned to my top five. Hello, Call of Duty.
What?
Yeah,
You put
Call
an
of
EA
Duty.
game as well?
Well, it's
Well,
now
Activision
Microsoft,
Blizzard.
Activision, now
Yes.
Microsoft. But yeah, Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is my number four game, which I didn't see coming at all. But thanks to a confluence of things, it being on Game Pass, number one, and two, it being the strongest Call of Duty in years, it's here. And yeah, I have played so much Black Ops 6 multiplayer. It is crazy how much I've played. It is back to I'm back to my 2007 self, like grinding out for grinding weapons, playing night and day, and get leveling up. I've prestiged for the first time since probably Modern Warfare 3. So it's been a while. It's been over a decade since the last time I prestiged the Call of Duty game. That's how good this is. I've been playing nonstop. I've even done things I haven't done in a long time with Call of Duty games. I dipped into the campaign, and last night I played zombies for the first time. I don't think I like it, is what I will say. I don't
Yeah.
think it's fun. Um, However, I understand why people get sucked into that. Like, I get it now. Like, I get like, okay, I understand why people like this. It is kind of roguelikey in a way where it's like, oh, I wonder if I do it this way, and if I approach my weapon like upgrades this style, maybe I'll have a better time in this part of this mission. I get it. Like, I get the mindset. It's just that I'd rather have the quick respawn multiplayer experience than the I'm dead and I have to start this whole mission over again experience. Just not my vibe. That being said, as a package, it is an incredible package. I even think at $70, this is a pretty good deal because there's a lot of game in here. But if you have Game Pass, it's an even better deal. Like it's probably the best deal Call of Duty has had in a long time. You will get a lot of gameplay out of Call of Duty Black Ops 6, pretty much no matter who you are. It is that good Call of Duty experience again. And I recommend anybody who's ever had a good experience with Call of Duty to jump in and try this one because it's that good. So,
I mean, I'm surprised to see a Call of Duty on your game. I'm surprised to
me
see a
too.
shooter on your game.
Trust me, no one is as surprised as I am. But enough of that because I'm not going to bro out for the rest of this list. The rest of this list is very me. So we go in number three, which is Tetris Forever. So this is where Tetris Forever has landed on my top five. It's very cool. It's a very cool thing that I'm happy that exists because it is just as much a cool game to play as a piece of living history. Like they've taken the greatest game franchise of all time, and built a shrine for it, honestly. Like it feels like you get the entire story of its development, you get in-depth interviews with everybody involved, you get pieces of the story that I had never heard of before. Someone who I had thought I was pretty well versed in the story of Tetris. But no, there was new revelations here. It spends enough time with the story of Tetris that you get a lot of that detail that you don't get anywhere else. This is much longer than an actual documentary about Tetris would be because it's a video game. And it's the way that it's presented interactive, like as something you can take your time and explore, makes it feel like you're walking through a museum more than you are watching a documentary movie. It's so well done and so well crafted. And every piece of it is like, oh wow, look, they got this. Like there's archival material. You can look at box art and like instruction manuals and advertisements from the games when they came out. Some that you've never seen before because some were exclusive to international audiences. Like you get to play international versions of some of these games. So like games you've never played before are here collected. And they're still adding them. As of literally yesterday, they added Weltris, which is a top-down Tetris that Alexei Pajitnov developed after the success of the first Tetris. I haven't even jumped in to play it yet, but I'm really excited to just feel like see what Weltris is. I will say there's a lot of games here that maybe aren't the best experience in 2024. Some of them have not aged as well. I'm talking about you, Hatris. You're fine, but you're not Tetris. You're Hatris. You're okay. And there's also some games that they missed. Like I would love if the N64 classic Tetrisphere was here, but it's not even mentioned in the history. Come on, Digital Eclipse, mention Tetrisphere. I love Tetrisphere. More people need to know about Tetrisphere. But everything else is here, including the gem of the collection, in my opinion, Tetris Battle Gaiden. It is so good. Multiplayer battle Tetris with special attacks. It is so cool. And it's so cool that it's finally here and not localized, but playable enough despite the Japanese text. Yeah, there's so much in Tetris Forever. It's such a great package. It's not that expensive either. It launched at $40 and I believe just went on 20% discount on top of that. So if you were waiting, now is the time to jump into Tetris Forever. It is the perfect collection and shrine to the greatness that is Tetris. And also, man, I want to hang out with Alexei Pajitnov. He's just the coolest dude. Like every time there was a new interview with this guy, I'm like, man, he's just so funny and so smart and like, yeah, thick Russian accent beside. I just want to chat with him. I just want to be like, man, you created the greatest video game of all time. What's on your mind right now? Like, what's going on? So it's cool. It's just such a cool package.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, this is a game that I would have liked to play. This is a game that, you know, Tetris as a franchise is our pretty much game of the forever.
Yeah,
So yeah, I mean, it's on sale. I mean, after Christmas time here, just like maybe just order it, just put it on the back burner and be like, yeah,
yeah.
I'll play it right after the holidays.
Yeah. It's probably a perfect holiday game because it's very much like relax, just let the Tetris wash over you. It's not like something that you're gonna have a completionist mindset about. It's not something that's gonna be like, oh, I need to finish this to see what happens. Like, no, it's just like I'm gonna learn about these games slowly at my own pace and can play them occasionally. You only have to play most of them for like a couple minutes to get the idea, and then like dedicate all your time later to Tetris Battle Guided.
Yes,
It's the way to do it. Anyway.
obviously.
So yeah, that's
All right.
Tetris Forever.
But you got two games left. I think I know what these two are, and I think
Yeah,
I know
you
the
know what
order.
these? Yeah,
So why don't you go ahead and tell me more about Infinity Nikki?
yeah, yeah. That is my number two. You nailed it. I'll be brief on these because you already talked about them. What I'll say about Infinity Nikki is, yeah, it's the everything game. They just put everything in the kitchen sink inside a pot and made it into a free-to-play game. That yeah, you barely have to spend money on it. However, I have spent money. Just wanted to
You
let you
want your
know,
outfits. I know
I
you
bought
would.
the, I did buy the deluxe season pass essentially. I just went ahead and did it because I wanted to pay for a game that I feel like deserves some money. Like I was like, they did such a good job with this. And I felt better about doing that than the gotcha stuff because I didn't like that's not gambling as much as the buying the resonation stuff is. That being said, yeah, it is a gotcha game. That's why it's not number one on this list. And I will hold that conversation for the write up. I have written a very long paragraph about how I feel conflicted about it, my feelings about this game. So look on the website after this goes up. I will put this up on there, and yeah, you will see where kind of I'm like a little iffy about the where we're at with in the industry. Going back to our story of the year,
Mhm.
this game only exists because it is a gotcha game, and that's kind of sad. But yeah, I go into it more in my write up. But I'll say right now is yes, everything you said is true. It is huge. It is addictive. It will suck you in, and you will come out the other end and be like, oh shit, how much time did I just spend on this game? It is that good, and yeah, and they just updated it. There's brand new banners for the Resonate polls, and there's some new content in the store. So yeah, like they're going to continue updating it, and as long as they continue updating, I'll continue playing it. But yes, your number one game, Astrobot. Of course it is, because
It's
yeah,
we'll just crown it right now. It's both our number
yeah,
one games. It's
it's
the
our game of the
Meebo
year.
game of the year.
It's
I
just
think we knew that like the week it came out after
yeah,
like playing the first couple levels. I think we both knew
yeah.
this was going to win.
Just an incredible package. It looks beautiful. Is one of the best looking games I've ever played. Is one of the best playing games I've ever played. It's like you said, it's just full of joy, minute to minute. It's so much to unlock, so much to find, so much to explore, so much to mess around with, so much playfulness. Just every second of this game is just like, hey, this is a fun thing that we put in this game that doesn't do anything gameplay wise, but we thought you'd have fun with it. Yeah, there's sprinkles all over this level. Wouldn't it be fun to do your spin attack and see the sprinkles fly everywhere? Yeah, try it. You can do it. Oh, you skating on ice? Yeah, of course. When the Astrobot jumps on the ice, he does like a little axle, little spin. Because of course he does. Because it would be fun if he did it. Oh, wouldn't it be fun if we did speed run levels that you compete with your friends? Yeah, we'll toss that in too. Wouldn't it be fun if we did a Christmas level just because it's Christmas coming up? Well, we did that too. And the fact that this is like a team of like 65 people that made this, and you can tell they're so passionate about video games that they put all of their influences in it and just it wears all its inspiration on its sleeve. Yeah, they love Mario Galaxy and they want you to know how much they love Mario Galaxy. This is an ode to this is so much an ode to Mario that when they accepted their Game of the Year award at the Video Game Awards, they shouted out Nintendo and they didn't have to do that. But it's because these people love video games and you can tell from the game itself. Like, sure, yes, does it also act as this weird like shrine to PlayStation? Yeah, is that kind of weird? Maybe. But if you take it on face value, they just really love the PlayStation. They really love the legacy. They love being part of the timeline of being a PlayStation game, of being a PlayStation franchise. They are reveling in that feeling. They want to be part of the conversation. So I don't think it's as cynical as some people are reading it. I am choosing to read it as these people love PlayStation so much that they want Astrobot to exist in a world alongside all of their favorite characters. That's what I want to believe. Like, and I think that that comes out in the game. Yeah, I think that that comes out in the game. Like, it just feels like they love video games. They know you love video games. So people who love video games made a game for people who love video games, and that's what Astrobot is.
Yeah, and they made it. They show that love not just in each like level and like boss, but those bonus levels right after the boss are their own little pastiche to past video games, and even one game that I kind of forgot about, but had so much fun playing. It's like they made the dedication to be like, we want to honor these games, we want to honor these game styles, as well as the different game plays
Yeah.
that came before them, but also saying like, hey, we know you love them. We know we love them. We want to show you our love for these games. And yeah, Team of 65 just absolutely crushed it here.
Yeah, just insane when you think about it. And yeah, they made the game of the year, and they should be happy. They should be proud of themselves. And I'm so excited. Can you imagine an Astrobot 2? We're going to get an Astrobot 2. How exciting is that? Like someday they will make a second one of these and it's going to be insane.
Even
So
more characters. So
yeah,
good.
so good. So yeah, as you said, we don't even need to debate. Astrobot is our media boat game of the year. Like not even no competition.
Yep. But if you want to hear us debate about other topics, whether it be music, television, or movies,
Hmm.
well, we got news for you.
Yep, you can
They're
see all of
coming.
that on our channels. Yes. They're either coming or have already come, depending on when you're listening to this. But yeah, if you're curious at all about the rest of our wrap ups or our regular show we do weekly, you can find it on YouTube by searching Media Boat on YouTube. You'll find our channel and our audio version of the podcast, which is on podcast catchers all over. Just search Media Boat Podcast on those. In both of those feeds, you will find these wrap up episodes as well as our regular edition of our podcast. So yeah, go ahead and check that out. To come, we have, like you said, television and movies. Music should already be up, but hey, if you're living in the future, as you love to say, you can find all
Yes.
of those right now.
Yep. So get to listen. Okay, bye.